For most people, Gemini shows up as laughter first. You see the quick smile, the clever joke, the way they can lighten a heavy room with a single line. They seem relaxed, adaptable, playful, almost weightless in the way they move through conversations and situations. But what many people never realize is that behind that bright, airy face, there is a storm system always forming in the distance. A mental and emotional tornado that only appears when certain lines are crossed. Gemini is an air sign, and when the air shifts, everything changes. Their anger may not smash plates or slam doors, but it can tear through your spirit with sentences that feel like perfectly aimed arrows. When a Gemini reaches their breaking point, their fury doesn't come in slow, gentle waves. It can arrive suddenly, like a gust of wind that becomes a hurricane in seconds. Their words get louder, sharper, more precise. They can shout, they can snap, and their voice can carry the weight of all the times they pretended it didn't bother them. They may not damage things around them, but they can make you feel like your soul has been hit head-on by truth you weren't ready to hear. That's because their anger is rarely random. It usually comes from feeling unseen, disrespected, or controlled. If you recognize yourself in these words, either as a Gemini or someone who loves one, pay close attention. This is not about blaming or shaming. It's about understanding the emotional mechanics behind their temper. When you understand the winds that move a Gemini heart, you can avoid turning small misunderstandings into emotional wars. And if this already resonates with your Gemini heart or with someone you care about, take a moment, even now, to subscribe to Astro Gemini so you don't miss future messages that speak directly to the way your mind, heart, and spirit really work. The first thing that quietly flips the hidden switch in Gemini's temper is being told what to do. Not suggested, not encouraged, told, commanded, ordered. For Gemini, who is ruled by Mercury, the planet of thought, dialogue, and choice, control feels like a direct attack on their inner freedom. When someone tries to dictate their decisions, their schedule, or their behavior, it doesn't just annoy them, it hurts. It feels like you're putting a cage around their thoughts and clipping the wings of their curiosity. To the outside world, they may roll their eyes or make a sarcastic comment, but inside, something is tearing.
Gemini can be playful with sarcasm and jokes, but even when they tease, they still need autonomy. When someone crosses that line and tries to manage them like a project, the air shifts, their chest tightens, their mind starts racing. Why do you think you know what's best for me? Why don't you trust my judgment? Why are you trying to shrink my world? In that moment, their temper rises not only from frustration, but from wounded pride. They may lash out with cold honesty or sharp humor that cuts deeper than they intended, but they will not silently accept domination. Their nature refuses to be micromanaged. Inside, there is a vulnerable voice that says, "I am capable of choosing my own path." That inner voice is sacred to Gemini. So when you speak to them as if they are incapable of deciding for themselves, you're not just giving an opinion, you're stepping on that sacred ground. A Gemini might stay quiet the first time, might laugh it off the second time, but on the third, their anger will begin to surface. It might come through raised volume, harsh words, or an icy distance you've never felt from them before. They're not just mad about this moment, they're mad about all the subtle ways their freedom has been questioned. If you're watching this and you are a Gemini or you love one, take a moment to ground this in your own story. Think about the times you felt your temper spike because someone treated you like a child or tried to script your every move. These are not random outbursts. They are emotional reactions to feeling controlled. And before we go deeper into the other triggers of Gemini rage, share your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments. Let the comment section become a constellation of real people, real experiences, and real Gemini energy connecting under the same sky. The second major trigger for Gemini anger is being ignored, brushed aside, left on read, treated like their presence or feelings don't matter. Gemini is naturally social and mentally active. They thrive on conversation, exchange, and mutual presence. When they walk into a room, they don't just enter, they tune into everyone's energy. So when someone suddenly withdraws, goes silent, or acts indifferent, Gemini feels it in their bones. Ignoring them doesn't just create space, it creates an emotional vacuum where doubts and stories begin to swirl. When a Gemini is met with coldness or silence, their mind begins to spin. Did I do something wrong? Are you punishing me? Do I not matter to you anymore? Even if they try to appear unbothered, a part of them feels deeply rejected. They are bright, they are adaptable, and they do love to move freely, but they also cherish genuine connection. Being ignored is like a bruise to their self-image. It says, "You're not worth my time or my words." And that, for a sign that lives in the realm of communication, is deeply painful.
Some Geminis will react to this by mirroring the indifference. They'll retreat into their own world, suddenly become distant, or bury themselves in new conversations and distractions. Others will snap. Their anger might look like sarcasm, cold replies, or even a sudden explosion after a long stretch of holding it in. But underneath the anger is a simple truth. Talk to me. Don't erase me. If you're upset with the Gemini, what they truly want is honesty. Sit down, look them in the eyes, and tell them what's wrong. They may not like what they hear, but they will respect you for being real. Ignoring a Gemini doesn't solve problems. It multiplies them in their mind. Their imagination fills the silence with worst-case scenarios. Was it something they said? Are you judging them? Are you tired of them? The anger builds not just from what happened, but from everything left unsaid. That is why the kindest thing you can do with a Gemini is to speak, explain, share your feelings. You may prevent a storm just by choosing conversation over avoidance. By the time Gemini feels both controlled and ignored, their temper is already simmering. Add one more trigger, wounding their ego, and the storm can finally break. Gemini's ego is not always loud and obvious like some signs. It often lives in their mind. They are proud of their insight, their ideas, their ability to adapt. So when you hit their self-esteem, when you humiliate them, ridicule their thoughts, or make them feel small in front of others, you awaken a very sharp, very intense part of their anger. Sometimes it's not even a big insult that does it. A small comment, a dismissive tone, a subtle joke at their expense can lodge itself in their thoughts. Gemini remembers words. Even if they let it slide in the moment, they replay the scene later. Why did they say that? Is that how they really see me? Their ego is tied closely to their mental agility and social presence. When you belittle their ideas, you're not just disagreeing, you're telling them they are less than, and that is something they cannot easily forgive. If this is making you reflect on how Gemini anger has shown up in your life, either your own or someone else's, take a moment to support this space of understanding. If this video is bringing you clarity, gently tap the like button. That simple act sends a signal into the algorithm and into the universe that you value content that helps you understand yourself and others on a deeper spiritual level. One of the deepest, most overlooked triggers of Gemini rage is when someone downgrades their intelligence. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the messenger, the thinker, the architect of language and ideas. Their mind is their pride. When someone talks down to them, treats them as if they are slow, naive, or clueless, it hits them in a tender place. To Gemini, this is more than an insult. It's a rejection of who they are at their core.
You might not even mean to hurt them. Maybe you over-explain something they already understand. You correct them in a condescending tone, or you make a joke that implies they just don't get it. On the surface, it feels small, but inside a Gemini, something snaps. Their thoughts turn sharp. Do you really think I'm that foolish? Have you not noticed how much I observe? How much I understand? In that moment, their anger becomes icy and focused. They may shut down the conversation, or they may respond with a brutal clarity that leaves you stunned. Gemini doesn't need to be the smartest person in the room, but they do need their mind to be respected. They absorb information quickly, connect dots others miss, and read between the lines with remarkable skill. When you insult their intelligence, it feels as if you're blind to all the ways they've been paying attention. And that is when their temper can become deeply personal. They may mock you, they may drown you in logic, or they may simply disappear from your life with no desire to return. If you realize you've unintentionally hurt a Gemini in this way, the best thing you can do is admit it. Be honest. Say, "I spoke to you in a way that was unfair. I know you're intelligent, and I'm sorry for making you feel otherwise." Gemini values truth and accountability. They can forgive when they feel seen and understood. Pretending it didn't happen or insisting they're overreacting will only push them further away and deepen their resentment. Then there is another subtle, powerful trigger: stealing their moment in the spotlight. Like Leo, Gemini enjoys attention, but not always in the same dramatic way. For Gemini, the spotlight can be as simple as having the floor to share their story, their joke, their insight. When they feel they've earned that moment and someone else barges in to overshadow them, it stings. It tells them, your voice doesn't matter as much as mine. Imagine the Gemini opening up, sharing something vulnerable, or shining in a social situation. Then suddenly, someone interrupts, hijacks the moment, and drags the energy toward themselves. Gemini might not explode immediately, but something in them goes cold. Their anger might show up as passive-aggressive remarks, distant behavior, or a sharp, carefully chosen phrase that reminds you, without doubt, that you crossed a line. They may not throw a tantrum, but they will make sure you feel the imbalance you created.
Beneath all of this, Gemini's temper is not about destruction. It's about integrity. They want to feel emotionally safe, mentally respected, and spiritually free. When those basic inner needs are violated, when their mind is dismissed, their voice silenced, their presence ignored, they react. Their speech becomes the weapon and the shield. It is their way of reclaiming space, power, and dignity in a world that often underestimates how deeply they feel. The final trigger that turns Gemini's air from breeze to storm is being treated lightly, taken for granted, sidelined, or viewed as a temporary distraction instead of a real, multi-dimensional human being. People often see Gemini as the entertainer, the talker, the one who keeps things fun. They laugh, they flirt, they adapt, and others assume that nothing truly hurts them because they always bounce back. But this is an illusion. When someone treats them like background noise or a convenient option, Gemini feels it like a cut straight to the heart. Gemini loves to be noticed, not in a shallow way, but in a real, attuned way. They want you to see their depth, not just their jokes, their questions, not just their answers, their silence, not just their chatter. When someone takes their eyes off them emotionally, when their presence stops being acknowledged, they feel unimportant. Outwardly, they may smile and carry on. Inwardly, their anger is building, slowly and steadily, like pressure in the atmosphere. You might notice subtle shifts first. The Gemini who used to overshare suddenly becomes brief. The person who once messaged you constantly now replies with one-word answers. Their tone grows cooler, their laughter sounds forced. They're still there, but a part of their spirit has stepped back. This is their way of giving you the angry treatment without exploding. It's not that they can't rage, they can, but often they're testing you to see if you'll notice the change and ask what's wrong, or if you'll prove their fear right and continue to treat them lightly. Although Gemini is spontaneous and quick, their anger is often expressed passively at first. They will try to suppress it. They will try to rationalize it. They will say to themselves, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe it's not a big deal. But the more they push the feeling down, the more their temper grows. One day, a small comment or action becomes the final straw, and all the unspoken hurt spills out at once. This is when people say, Gemini blew up out of nowhere, when in truth,
It was building for a long time.
If you've ever faced Gemini's anger, think back to what came before the explosion. Were you controlling them, ignoring them, wounding their pride, dismissing their intelligence, cutting into their spotlight, treating them like they were disposable or unimportant? Their fury is rarely just about one incident. It is an accumulation of little stings they tried to overlook until they couldn't anymore. And if you're a Gemini, let this be a gentle reminder that your emotions are valid and you're allowed to set boundaries before the storm arrives. As you listen to this, if you feel your own story echoed in these words, let this be a moment of energetic exchange. If this message has helped you understand yourself or someone you love, hit the like button now. It may seem simple, but it tells the universe and the algorithm that content like this matters. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to Astro Gemini so you can keep receiving guidance that speaks to the truth of your sign, your heart, and your journey. Finally, remember this: a Gemini's anger is not a flaw to be ashamed of. It is a signal. It points to where they feel controlled instead of respected, ignored instead of heard, belittled instead of honored, used instead of cherished. When you see their fury, you are seeing the moment they refuse to abandon themselves. Treat their anger as a doorway to deeper conversation, not a wall. Listen to the feelings beneath the words, and you may discover a softer, wiser, more loving side of them that was always there, waiting to be seen. If this message has spoken to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Astro Gemini, and share your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments so we can feel your energy in this constellation of souls. And if you want to hear everything the universe has to say to you, watch these other videos on our channel.